Good morning, good afternoon to everybody watching, wherever you may be in the world. My name is Caroline Moore and I'm the Customer Marketing Executive here at AppsAnywhere. I'm here today with the wonderful Magnus from the University of Bergen, who is going to be kicking off our first customer session today. Just a few little moments, we're going to wait just to make sure that everybody has filed in, so please just get yourselves comfortable and we will start the presentation in about 1 minute's time. Okay guys, just before we start, just a little bit of housekeeping. So today you are all in listen only mode. There is no ability to speak or to put your webcams on. However, you can ask questions in the chat box, which is on the side for you there. These questions will be taken by our Magnus. However, when you're asking these questions, could you please also provide a little bit of context, just in case we don't have time to get to them until the end, just so it makes sense for when Magnus is reviewing them at the end of the session. So with that all being said, I'm going to hand over to Magnus. Thank you.
Good morning, good day, and good afternoon, or whatever that quote is from that movie. I appreciate the chance to talk to you today about our journey here from the University of Bergen. My name is Magnus, as you can see on screen, and I was the project manager for implementing AppsAnywhere at the University of Bergen. So I'm happy to be here to share our journey. Which the title kindly provided to me was providing a modern and forward-thinking environment for students. And well, this is our university. Let's see if I can just move this little thing out of the way, and I can see my slides. There we go. So the University of Bergen, west coast of Norway. At the last housekeeping time, we had about just under 21,000 students and 4,200 staff. Typical Norwegian broad university with everything from medicine, law, social sciences, humanities, etc. And I guess considering we have quite a few international attendees, I'll just speak very briefly about sort of the Norwegian higher education system. My slides keeps jumping, that's fine. Can everyone see? Yeah, this should be okay. Sorry, 2 secs, just technical issues on my end. Go away. No. Excuse me for this. Here we are. So very quickly about the Norwegian higher education sector. Obviously, there is no tuition for most of our universities here. That goes for our university as well. We're thankfully very well maintained in terms of IT infrastructure. And the students in Norwegian higher education are required to own a device, be it a Mac, Windows, or other type, to bring to their university education. So where others might have issues with sort of the availability of devices for students, we are thankfully all our students have those available as part of their studies. If the AppsAnywhere, which is what we call our nice portal, was the answer, then what was our question? And there could be many reasons to do this. On our end, digital assessment, which is what you see on the left here, is definitely a start to where our train of thought began. We digitized our assessment in 2016. And the next sort of step up from that was the ability to use applications or software as part of the assessment process when using students' own computers. There was obviously some computer labs. You can see an actual picture from one of our older computer labs here. They were really getting out of date, the equipment, both the hardware and sort of the rooms in general. So there was definitely some benefit in that. And we saw that it was a breadth of applications that were provided to students through these computer labs, but there was no real way to both control the delivery of them, nor was there an ability to limit the amount of applications and sort of structure it in a proper way. Monetary reasons, obviously, all of the above comes down to monetary reasons. But as I mentioned as well, with the students' own devices coming in and being considerably more powerful than our on-site computer labs, we realized that this is something that we would have to rethink our strategy for as well. As well as obviously the packaging, which I must admit I know have no practical experience with, but still is a considerable effort on our IT department's part. So with that, sort of as the backdrop to everything, we also wanted to tie this together with the way that we work together with our faculty to develop teaching and learning. And I work in our learning lab, and I like to say that whenever I talk to faculty, I ask them 3 simple questions. That is, are the students learning what they should learn? And then are we teaching the students, or are they taught in a way that they learn what they should learn? And then are the students assessed in a way that we know if they have learned what they should have learned? And sadly, or more often than not, I have yet to hear yes to all of these questions. And application delivery, obviously, for our end is both figuring out what digital competencies the students should learn, making sure that they are taught in the best way possible with those applications available, and then putting those into the assessment system and assessing them and their use of applications as well. So this is the short journey, or not a short journey, but the journey that we sort of started on. This is the starting point, and I'll take you through sort of what we've done and some of the considerations we've done. And feel free to pop questions in the chat as well if there's something you want to be elaborated on at the end of the talk. So what does this Tredjepartsportalen, which is the third-party software portal, directly translated, it's or more commonly known as AppsAnywhere and on our end, what does it look like? Well, the timeline for how we worked, as I said, this started in 2016 when we started thinking about assessment for teaching and learning and using digital tools as part of that. So we must say we didn't spend all the time from 2016 to 2018 to develop our concept, but with the official start of the project was in 2018. So we ran a pilot in 2019 and 2020 together with Software 2, as they were then known, now AppsAnywhere, which started actually with an R&D project in 2019. And you can see both the phases and the sort of goals for the R&D project down there on the right. On our end, with our current holistic system for our digital ecosystem, it's important for us to integrate the different solutions and technological tools that the students have available to them. So what was lacking at the time, at least from the AppsAnywhere perspective, although being good on application delivery, was the ability to integrate into our LMS and into our assessment system. So this is what the R&D did. It's fun to look back. This is actually a wireframe of what the LTI integration could look like back in the concept stage. And it really looks quite similar in production today, so it's kind of neat. We did the tender process in the 2020 and launched live to all our students in 2021 with AppsAnywhere as our provider, and then the project, which I led, ended now a good 9 months ago, and we've been in production since then. Everything seems to be working fine. The goal for the project was to make third-party applications for teaching and learning available in a scalable fashion, self-service on the students' own devices. And I like to put these buzzwords out, like make everything available everywhere, which I must say we did. But at some point, someone said this is silly, it's impossible. But we like to think big. And instead of letting you dwell too much on it, this is sort of our teacher's perspective. We want our teachers to make a list of relevant applications for teaching and assessment or teaching and exams per their course via our LMS. And we want to have them submit application requests as part of their planning for teaching for the next semester. So I'll get back to this, but there was no real structure on how one would submit requests for new applications as part of the delivery. For students, this is just how you can tick a box to make it presentable in the LMS or in the exam, and the exam tick adds it to the API for exam. So we'll get back to For students, obviously, we want them to launch software that the teacher has selected, or perhaps more commonly used, use the web portal. As AppsAnywhere so graciously provides, it's only a one-button solution, and everything regarding the machine and the operating system and everything is handled by the solution. And we were a bit worried about how the students would respond to this. But to be fair, it was overwhelmingly positive. They're super happy to work with software from home, in their reading rooms, in colloquial groups, and whenever they really feel like. And the fact that it just works. I'd be the first to admit that we've had to iron out some kinks in the system and in the setup along the way, but overall, it just works. And overall, I mean, from our end at least, the benefits that we aimed for was obviously qualitatively in terms of increasing the use of digital tools to enhance learning, confer the connection to the LMS, and also provide a more realistic testing of learning outcomes. So when the student's digital competencies is actually part of the learning outcome of a course, and that they should use this or that software, we want to provide a good environment to actually do that testing. And obviously, being able to both reduce rooms and present a better way to utilize application for digital learning, we can also improve the digital learning environment. And as any good person would ask, how do you fund this? Well, we can remove a good amount of rooms on campus, or at least repurpose them. We'll simplify the technical and administrative management of IT services, as well as the packaging and management of software to students. And well, we don't have 1,000 PCs that needs to be renewed every 5 years, or probably were due to be renewed 5 years ago, so they're really old and there was a big investment cost on the horizon in that regard. We're also happy to utilize established IT infrastructure to sort of transition and do a lot of the piloting as part of the project. So what does it look like today in terms of architecture on our end? This is what we set out for with the tender, just to sort of understand the ecosystem that this solution, which in the end turned out to be AppsAnywhere, is supposed to work within. But the students obviously have their bring your own device on the left, and they interact with both the web portal, the LMS, and the assessment system. Everything here in green is what the solution is to provide, and then you should use it either for teaching and learning and for assessment within the lockdown system. We'll go into a bit more detail on sort of what that looks like in technical terms, at least now that we're in production. Oh yeah, we found AppsAnywhere. That's not that relevant. I assume you got that already. This is what it looked like in the pilot. On AppsAnywhere's recommendation, we obviously use Cloudpaging, but also Parallels, set that up on our local on-prem VMware farms, and that worked very well. Although we realized that we don't really have the desire to invest in large amount of on-prem infrastructure. So having obviously Parallels run in the cloud made really no sense to us, especially when we come to license costs. I'll get back to that as well in a second. More interesting then, I guess, is the current setup. And this looks messy, but I'll take you through it. The application delivery is obviously Cloudpaging. We'll start at the bottom for all Windows apps for teaching. Those are either obviously delivered to the students' own devices when they have Windows devices, or we're using Cloudpaging as part of our Azure Virtual Desktop infrastructure to deliver the same package to that type of environment for anyone on a Mac, on the cloud, on a Chromebook, or any other type of device that we're seeing, Linux, for example. Obviously, the apps are available as part of the web portal through AppsAnywhere, but also as the integration into the LMS, as I already showed. On the right side, and sort of where the more sort of fancy or funky ways of integrating is, we've mirrored the type of Azure Virtual Desktop infrastructure, but added a different template in order to lock down the computers appropriately. And that runs within the confines of the Safe Exam browser and our assessment system, which is Inspira Assessment. And then we built this quite nifty set of connectors or collectors. So we collect API data from AppsAnywhere in terms of what applications should be used on what course. We use the student information system data as well as the assessment system data to generate specific script templates. So when a student logs on to the specific Azure Virtual Desktop instance, when they have their exam, they're presented with the application selected in the LMS by their teacher. I'll show you how this works in the end, but that's sort of the overarching principles of how we've solved our issues. And as you might be able to detect in the top right, those are listed as icons or shortcuts rather than actually launching. So that's part of our solution, is to provide the deep link to a Cloudpaging launch for the applications rather than the students being able to pick the applications themselves. So that's handled on the client level. I'm sure you're familiar with the technology, but just a quick recap. Obviously, this is it's actually on my own device about a year ago, running all the apps that we had available in our portal, and Cloudpaging works excellently well for that. Not much to say; it just works. This is what it looks like in the teaching Windows Virtual Desktop version. So they launch into a full desktop of Azure Virtual Desktop. They get some instructions on the screen, which is personalized based on the user that's logging in, and you're presented with the portal basically available to launch any applications that's available there, where all but a few are available as the Cloudpage version. Some are natively installed for practical reasons, I guess. Some of the experiences we've had along the way, some of the decisions we've had to make. Bring your own device versus UIB clients. As I said initially, the students at the University of Bergen are required to have their own device. After having spoken to plenty of students and done quite a bit of IT support, I can say that that's the nightmare of any IT professional, to have to deal with all the students' breadth of devices, updated, unupdated, and full of other things that should never be on a computer. But that's anyway the decision that the university and the policy that we've gone with. So for us, it was really a no-brainer to ensure that we can do application delivery on bring your own device, but obviously needing to control those both licenses, but also the applications that being able to recall, for example, licenses or constrict use where necessary. In terms of selecting both the virtualizations or types of delivery methods, I guess. As I mentioned earlier, we started with Cloudpaging in parallels. We quickly realized that scaling up our on-prem infrastructure wasn't really feasible, and there is at least, or used to be, a push towards cloud services in the higher education sector in Norway. So moving towards Azure Virtual Desktop was although at the time, if not a beta, but at least a very early version of what was then Windows Virtual Desktop, but seemed to be the reasonable choice. The major sort of big hitting point on that end is when we discovered or was told that if we utilize Azure Virtual Desktop, you don't have to pay the extra licensing for the server CAL and the remote desktop CALs to Microsoft, which on its own would probably cost more than what we're paying today for having available clients in the cloud. So it was really a cost, or Microsoft with their built-in licensing scheme pushing us towards that technology. That being said, it works beautifully well. It's super easy to maintain, and I mean, having now built the competencies of maintaining clients in Azure Virtual Desktop, it's something that's being applied to other users at the university as well. So obviously some extra benefits there. It's a big question. We debated this quite a lot, actually. Should we present remote apps or full desktop? As part of the Parallels pilot, we played around with presenting remote apps. What we very quickly realized was that the students who have some level of digital competencies and understand the difference between working on a sort of remote app virtual environment versus on their on a full remote desktop really enjoyed remote apps. The challenge was the other half, which really had no clue what was going on. Why do I all of a sudden have Windows stuff on my Mac? And how do I deal with moving files from one place to another? and all of these other issues. So in the end, what we decided on and what we're still maintaining is it's considerably more user-friendly to the breadth of students in our student group to provide a full desktop experience. The very competent students can very easily understand it, and the not so competent students are also happy with it that way. We might change that down the line, but for the time being, we're full desktop only when it comes to using virtual resources. But speaking of digital competencies, and I apologize for having the Norwegian version of this course available, but we realized that accessing remote resources wasn't really the only issue the students had. They have a general need to improve their very, very basic digital competence overall. So we ended up making an online course together with a bunch of IT assistants, which are helping students, basically giving an introduction to how you can and should utilize the digital portfolios and the digital tools available at UAB as part of your studies. It's since evolved since this overview of modules, and it's in Norwegian, so you probably don't get it anyway. What it currently has evolved into is actually being an official course at the university worth exactly 0 ECTS credits. So you get no benefit from taking it, but we've actually come to a level where they've added this as part of the official course portfolio, which will actually show up on students' transcripts when they finish the university. So moving from something very simple in the project to something that actually has a major impact on showcasing students' digital competencies after completing the course. It's available in English. It's available with English subtitles, but not with Norwegian spelling or the English language. So I don't think it was that relevant to share, but I can share the link anyway. You can have a look if you want. What about employees? Big question. We very quickly put this outside the scope of what the project were to deliver. Having now gone through a 3-year both pilot and implementation, and now running it for almost a full year, we definitely see the potential of launching apps to employees in this way possible. We're currently using SSEM, as you can see some screenshot from, but there's no current use of AppsAnywhere for our employees outside of teaching groups. There are probably good reasons to, down the line, want to do that type of transition as well for employees, but something that we have not considered. I know other universities in Norway have done the same transition, but with employees as well, successfully. But if you're like us and really need to sort of start from scratch and figure out how to deal with one group first, students were a good way to start and get a lot of experience both on the technology and how we want to do app delivery. And then you could transition into teachers or employees at the later stage. Packaging, we don't have staff to do packaging for AppsAnywhere. We decided not to do training. Actually, we did have one training session. I was in it. I don't remember anything. To be fair, the packaging service that AppsAnywhere provides is cost effective, at least with the salaries that we have to pay, and we don't have to maintain the competencies of doing packaging. Including the move to automatically license packages, there is really a no-brainer for us to pay for this service. And obviously, as I think a lot of you know, and as you might have seen from the product before, the insights which is presented to us in terms of both the use of applications currently and also in terms of the license use over time is something that's sort of greatly benefited us, both in being able to negotiate smaller pools of licenses, as well as hopefully, at least down the line, get better license deals and get more sort of relevant types of licensing models with our external stuff or external software. Sorry. Super powerful tool. We probably just scratched the surface, but it currently solves our issues. We're happy to sort of learn more about it, at least, I guess, down the line as well. I said initially that we redesigned the process for application management, and to be fair, there was no real process. It was just send the request to the IT department. No one asked any questions, and you just put at the back of very long backlog, and at some point things will be made available to you. So we spent quite the time and effort to redesign the process of how we can sort of rethink this and make it a little bit more thought through. Yeah, I guess this sums up how it used to be. We don't know what applications we want, but we do want them right now. And this is the top 99 rows of the condensed version of what we asked when people asked what applications they actually want. This process chart makes no sense to you, but it's the summary of the process, and I'll go into detail shortly. The only thing I really wanted to sort of highlight here, and it'll make sense as well in the next slide, is the initiation of the process is one faculty starting it, but then there are 3 other sub-processes, which 3 parts, which is the faculty where the request comes from, the student administration, and the IT department work together to evaluate the request and eventually get the application available or rejected as a suggested tool. What that means in practice for us, we're using this, is that applications are added twice a year. All applications are updated to the latest version when available in that twice a year cycle. And when they say the latest version is the latest version that AppsAnywhere provides, they could be quicker on their update on the apps in the App Store, but that's what we're aiming for anyway. We have a standard configuration of IT infrastructure in Azure Virtual Desktop. That's what you have to rely on. And as I mentioned, the new application has to be approved by the IT department, the student services, and the respective faculty. So there's actually someone having a discussion if this is something that we would want or not. And we have not yet done that, but we will not maintain applications that are or haven't actually seen any use. I thought this would be a hassle to get approved from the IT the director and everything. I think everyone was super happy about just getting this sort of jotted down when we actually figure out how we could deal with this properly. So no real anger from anyone from this. What that means in terms of the actual applications that we have available, the 3 categories that we say that we can make available: obviously open source software of any kind, really, licensed software that we have a license for, key point there, and any online resource or software as a service available outside of sort of the confines of UIB. What we realized is that there are quite a lot of things that we can't deliver, or we haven't set up the infrastructure to deliver, which is fine. We have the specialized software required, specializing hardware and/or security. So, for example, the Adobe Suite or anything that comes with creative sort of tools from our faculty of arts and design and music, but also sort of research intensive or medical research or such that requires considerably higher security cannot be launched through this portal. There are other solutions to solve that desire for applications. Surprisingly enough, there's quite a lot of desire for software where there's no money for licenses. We can't really help you with that. And then there is a question about what is actually an application and what is something that should not be or should or shouldn't be installed on a student's computer, which we've also decided to take out. And to be fair, when people ask about the 4 latter categories and they get a no, they're just happy they got a no. There's someone who actually made a decision rather than just being at the backlog, about the end of a very long backlog, which you might not never get to in terms of how we used to. What does this mean in practice? The deadline is the 15th of October or 1st of April. This is the same date as course scheduling. You submit your request digitally, and it's evaluated against 4 criteria, which I'll get back to in a second. And if you meet all those criteria, there's external packaging. It's made available with a teacher provision for a 1-week test. And granted that that test is successful and/or the teacher doesn't reply, it's made available to the students. So there is a test window for most complex applications, which are actually tested. The criteria: is the application compatible with AppsAnywhere or with application delivery that we do? Confer those groups that we looked at earlier. Is it applicable or compatible with the UIB infrastructure, so Azure Virtual Desktop? Do you have licenses, or are there funds for licenses? And perhaps the criteria that I'm most happy with having sort of put in stone is the desired use of this software in line with the faculty or department's priorities related to the utilization of digital tools and digital competencies for the students. So, for example, our mathematical natural science faculty has decided that all the students should learn programming in Python. So they will never allow any other software in terms of programming for those students to be made available. There's no reason for it. They should use Python. So we've put the responsibility of deciding what application should be back to the overall responsibility of the faculty and the departments rather than the individual instructor. Some might not be too happy with it, but it's in terms of teaching and learning, at least, considerable step forward in our end. So, yeah, well, I guess that comes back to those 3 simple questions that I was talking about earlier in terms of if the students are learning the software, they should learn and such. Just very quickly touch on applications and assessment. As I mentioned earlier, this is the infrastructure on the right side. So is this part of the solution? And I think I'll just play this video, but I'll play it just very step by step. So this is, I'll just jump through it very quickly. You obviously, I'm not logged into the exam solution here, but that's the desktop where it runs from. And you launch into the Azure Virtual Desktop through the web client. So I log in. There is obviously some time for the computer to launch, but this is added to their total exam time. So we've considered that when they actually do run exams. Let's see if I can find the right parts. So they enter a pretty small or a very neat desktop. They get a pop-up with a lot of information that we ask for them to read. But the magic and the reason why we put it there is so that they don't see what's happening behind. You can see the PowerShell script that just started here. It doesn't really give a pop-up, it's just in the test environment. But now it's populating the desktop with the list of applications that the teacher for this course have decided to add to their exam. And these are also added with their icons in a second and are in practice, or in essence, deep links to the Cloudpaging launch URL, which is prefetched onto the computers. So basically, it's basically launching a normal Cloudpaging application, but you don't have to go through the portal. So then they work with the application. I'll just go here, work with the application, for example, generating some type of sketch of molecules. I don't know what they do. You save that in whatever format you want to decide. You add that to the exam or the submission, which is available in the browser here, and then you submit. And I guess it's the security is all handled both on the client side, but also through the exam systems. You would normally do this on your bring your own device, but in the lockdown environment. I think I'll stop that video there. We have a few minutes for questions at the end. Oh yeah, no, what now? What? Yeah, well, I talked about employees. And that we might head in that direction. What we're really thankful for is just the solution is working. I think we're just waiting quite a bit to see sort of where we want to go next. Going from a sort of a project rigged follow or support team with a lot of staff there, we're trying to fine tune sort of the necessary resources to run the entire application delivery suite with absolutely everything that you have seen now. And I think in summary, we have about 0.6 of a position that it's managing this compared to considerable amounts of positions that were prior. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I'll redirect my attention to the chat box. I see there is something that popped up as well, and yeah. Let's see, no questions have come through. So I'll pass back to you then, Caroline, and see if there's some more questions to pop in while we chat at the end.
Thank you very much, Magnus. Yes, please feel free to ask any questions now. We do have a few minutes left of the webinar if you do. If you do not have any questions at the moment, do send them across at any time via the email option, as we will pass these across to Magnus and get them over. We'll just give you guys a couple of minutes in case you would like to answer anything. Please go ahead. I'm going to take that as, Magnus, a very job well done, and you've been so thorough that no one has any extra questions at the time being. I'd just like to thank you all for attending today, and Magnus for presenting University of Bergen's story so well there. Thank you all so much. And yes, if you have any questions, please do feel free to email them across and we will get back to you.
Sounds good. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye.